A man sits on a jagged shelf of volcanic rock, surrounded by the churning waters of the Aegean Sea. The wind tastes like salt in exile, standing out in the cold. And it does carry the weight of something exact. Numbers in the ancient world are never accidental. They are architecture. But there is a detail in the original registry of this army that most people read right past. Before John turns around and sees the uncountable, breathing reality of this multitude, he hears the rigid, perfectly symmetrical roll call of the 12 Israelite tribes. And if you know your ancient history, there is a glaring, deliberate error in the math. Look at the names written in dry ink on the parchment. Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher. The list feels ancient. The list feels historically perfect. But it is not. If you unroll the ancient scroll of Genesis and lay it next to Revelation chapter 7, the math fractures. The genealogy is broken. One ancient tribal name has been completely erased. The tribe of Dan is gone. They are wiped from the final ledger. In their place, Manasseh is double counted. Levi, the priestly tribe usually excluded from a military draft, is suddenly handed a spear and placed in the ranks. Ephraim's name is quietly swapped out for Joseph. This is not an accident. John is not suffering from a lapse in memory. Why erase Dan? Go back to the chaotic chapters of the Book of Judges. Go back to the bloody split of the northern kingdom. Dan was the epicenter of ancient idolatry. They stole idols. They built a rival priesthood. They set up a heavy, golden calf in the northern hills. They traded the dangerous presence of God for the comfortable weight of a carved statue. But if you look closer at the way Jewish apocalyptic literature actually works, at the ancient Greek words John chooses to write down. In ancient Jewish tradition, Dan became synonymous with the serpent. They became the gateway for idolatry to poison the nation. So when John drafts the ultimate apocalyptic army, he cuts them out. This list is not a biological genealogy. It is a moral architecture. John is actively rewriting the ancient map of Israel. He is showing a terrified, the first century church that physical bloodline does not guarantee a seat at the table. He is warning them that spiritual compromise has a permanent cost. You cannot carry the seal of the living God and quietly burn incense to the Roman emperor. You cannot hold the palm branch of victory and bow your head to the beast of the state. The true Israel is not defined by DNA. The true Israel is defined by absolute, unbending allegiance to the Lamb. The 144,000 are the ones who refuse to bend the knee. The roll call is finished. The ranks are closed. The warning has been issued. And now, this massive, unbreakable infantry has to take its position on the cosmic battlefield. John looks up from the list. The dark water of the Aegean Sea fades away. A new mountain comes into view. The volcanic ash of Patmos dissolves into a completely different landscape. John stares up at the jagged, imposing heights of Mount Zion. The air is no longer thick with the suffocating dread of the Roman Empire. The wind from the Aegean Sea has been replaced by a sound, and at the startling detail he embeds right after the number is announced, you start to see something the strict quota reading completely ignores. That shakes the ground, a sound like the roar of rushing waters and loud peals of thunder. He sees the Lamb standing on the solid rock of the mountain, and standing right beside the Lamb, shoulder to shoulder, in absolute defiance of the beast, are the 144,000. The heavy signet seal is gleaming on their foreheads. They are not hiding in the limestone caves anymore. They are not cowering in the shadows, while the Empire demands their blood. They have taken the high ground, and they are singing a new song that vibrates with the heavy, magnificent weight of their survival. But John adds a highly specific detail to this apocalyptic infantry that has confused modern readers for centuries. He describes this massive army as those who have not defiled themselves with women. He calls them virgins, keeping themselves pure to follow the Lamb wherever he goes. If you read that detail with a modern, literal lens, it sounds like an exclusive cosmic reward reserved entirely for unmarried, celibate men. But apocalyptic literature does not operate on modern literalism. John is pulling a very specific image out of the ancient Jewish scriptures to make a theological point about allegiance. Go back to the book of Deuteronomy. When the ancient nation of Israel prepared for a holy war, the soldiers were required to maintain strict ritual purity. They were commanded to abstain from normal domestic life, stepping away from their wives and their homes to dedicate the 144. 000 is not a limit on who gets saved. It is the mobilization of an army. To feel the shock of what John is doing, bodies entirely to the impending battle. The purity was not a rejection of marriage. It was a physical symbol of absolute, undivided focus on the campaign. This is not a biological requirement for physical celibacy. It is the vocabulary of an ancient holy war. John is telling the persecuted believers in Rome and Ephesus that they are currently engaged in a massive spiritual conflict to survive the seductive, idolatrous culture of the empire, a culture portrayed in Revelation as a prostitute offering the intoxicating wine of compromise. They have to remain spiritually pure. They cannot sleep in the bed of the empire and expect to stand on the mountain of the Lamb. The beast demands a transaction. The Lamb demands a total allegiance. The 144. 000 are the ones who refuse to drink the wine of Babylon, holding their ground on the mountain while the rest of the world bows down to the image of the state. It is a staggering, breathtaking image of victory for a battered church, but as magnificent as this cosmic stand is. Human nature has spent the last 2 millennia finding a way to completely ruin it. We hate the uncountable multitude. We prefer the math. Look at the last 2,000 years of church history. Look at the sects that have splintered off. Look at the religious compounds built in the desert. We love a closed door. We love a velvet rope. You cannot read this text like a modern accountant looking at a spreadsheet. You have to step into the dust and the danger of the 1st century Roman Empire. We love the heavy click of an iron deadbolt locking the wrong people outside. Give humans a specific number in an ancient sacred text, and we will immediately use it to build a cage. We pull out the dry erase markers. We draw the rigid dispensational charts. We print the cheap theological pamphlets that smell like fresh ink and fear. We do the calculations. We count the empty seats. We point a finger at the vast majority of humanity and say, "We are in. You are out." It happens in every century. A new group claims the 144, 000 strictly for themselves. They claim they are the elite. They claim they are the pure remnant. They claim everyone else is drinking the wine of Babylon. They use the number to justify isolation. They use the number to enforce control. This is not divine revelation. It is human arrogance masquerading as theology. We use apocalyptic math to soothe our own anxiety. If the grace of God is too wide, it feels reckless. If the multitude is truly uncountable, we lose our special status. If the gates of the New Jerusalem are blown wide open, our strict denominational boundary lines mean absolutely nothing. 1st century believers did not read this number and feel elite. They read it and felt relief. They were losing their businesses in the Ephesian markets. You have to smell the incense burning at the altar of the emperor. The people receiving this letter were not sitting in comfortable study groups debating eschatology. They were being dragged by their hair through the dirt of the public square. They were waking up to find their friends missing. They were a shattered, scattered minority living under the shadow of a beast. They needed to know their suffering was not random. They needed to know they were counted. Today, we sit in air-conditioned buildings. We sit on padded chairs. We are not bleeding in a Roman arena, so we invent a theological arena instead. We manufacture an exclusive club to make ourselves feel important. But John dismantles the club. He hears the exclusive math, but he looks and sees the inclusive reality. The 144, 000 is not a weapon of exclusion. It is the vocabulary of absolute completion. It is God looking at a bruised, terrified, scattered people and declaring, I have not lost a single one of you. The number is not meant to make you scan the room and wonder who is getting kicked out. It is meant to make you look at the terrifying machinery of the world and realize you have absolutely nothing to fear. The math is a comfort, not a cage. The census is a promise, not a purge. And when you finally step back and look at the entire picture, when you connect the burning sand of Sinai, they were meeting in the shadows. They were watching their neighbors vanish in the night. They were feeling the crushing, overwhelming weight of Rome. To the crystal sea of Patmos, you realize the math itself was only ever a shadow of what was actually coming. John heard the rigid math of an exclusive military draft, and he turned to see an uncountable choir holding palm branches. The names of the ancient tribal patriarchs were called aloud, and the gates were thrown open to every language and nation on the earth. The idolatry of Dan was erased from the ledger, and the uncompromising allegiance of the true Israel was permanently recorded. The heavy signet ring was pressed into their skin, and the beast lost all claim over their eternal belonging. The soldiers prepared for a violent, holy war, and they conquered not by shedding blood, but by holding on to the testimony of a slaughtered lamb. A scattered, terrified minority took their stand on the jagged rocks of Mount Zion, and the chaotic machinery of the Roman Empire could not move them. Same number, same God, but maybe the part that stays with me most is the turn. The space between the hearing and the seeing. We spend so much of our lives listening to the strict calculations of the world, the rigid math of who is in, who is out, who is worthy, and who is broken. We hear the terrifying roll call of an exclusive club, but when John actually turns his head, a beast of a kingdom that demanded their total and absolute allegiance, they were terrified. They needed to know if their quiet, underground resistance to look at the reality of God. The math shatters into an uncountable multitude. If you are in a season where you feel like you do not make the cut, if you are carrying the weight of a theology that feels more like an iron cage than a comfort, Revelation chapter 7 is a place to breathe. The 144,000 is not a limit on His grace. It is the guarantee of your absolute belonging. If this shifted something for you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this with someone who has been hurt by the math of exclusion. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who refuses to lose a single name in the ledger seal your mind with His peace and give you the courage to stand on the mountain when the world tells you to bow to the beast. Was going to survive the overwhelming machinery of the empire. But before John shows them the end of the story, he gives them an inventory. We have a strange habit of reading ancient apocalyptic literature like a modern tax document. We see a number on the page. He is an old man. He has outlived his closest friends. He has outlived the world he once knew. And now, imprisoned on the island of Patmos. And we immediately reach for a calculator. We want to divide, multiply, and draw rigid boundary lines around who is in and who is out. We read the book of Revelation like a secret code book meant to be deciphered on a whiteboard with a dry erase marker. But apocalyptic literature does not work like a spreadsheet. It works like a stained glass window shattering in the afternoon sun. It is designed to overwhelm the senses. It communicates deep theological reality through jarring, impossible, and highly stylized imagery. When first-century Jewish believers unrolled a parchment scroll and encountered numbers in this genre, they did not process them as literal census statistics. They processed them as symbols. They read numbers as theological grammar. 3 is the number of the divine. 4 is the number of the created earth, the 4 winds, the 4 corners. 7 is perfection. And 12 is the number of God's government. 12 tribes of Israel in the ancient desert. 12 apostles walking the dusty roads of Galilee. 12 is the foundation of God's people. If you take 12 and multiply it by 12, you get 144. And if you multiply that by 1,000, the ancient military unit of a vast, overwhelming force, you arrive at a number that would make a first-century reader catch their breath. He is holding a reed pen against a sheet of rough parchment, He is trying to capture the unimaginable, the 144. 000 is not a seating capacity. It is the architecture of an unstoppable promise. Think of the stone architecture of a Roman amphitheater. It is built with rigid mathematical precision to seat exactly 50,000 spectators. Every person has a designated stone bench. That is Roman math. It operates on strict limits. It functions by keeping the wrong people out of the heavy iron gates. But John is employing Jewish apocalyptic math. It is meant to evoke the exact opposite feeling. It is meant to reassure a terrified, battered minority that despite the persecution, despite the shadows, despite the blood soaking the sand of the arena, the family of God is perfectly intact. Not a single person has been lost in the cosmic ledger. The number means absolute completion. It means everyone who belongs to the Lamb will be there. But John is doing more than just offering comfort to the grieving. He is preparing them for a conflict. And to understand what kind of conflict, you have to look closely at the specific registry. He begins to read aloud in chapter 7. 4 angels stand at the 4 corners of the earth. They grip the invisible reins of the 4 winds. The Aegean Sea goes dead calm. The olive trees stop shaking. The air grows incredibly heavy, thick with static. Like the suffocating pause right before a desert flash flood. He sees a scroll sealed with 7 seals. He sees horses, the color of fire and ash. He sees the sky rolling up like a scroll. Another angel ascends from the rising of the sun. He shouts. His voice cracks like thunder across the unnatural silence. Do not harm the earth, or the sea, or the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. And then John hears the number. He hears the roll call. 12,000 from the tribe of Judah, 12,000 from the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 from the tribe of Gad, 12,000 from Asher, 12,000 from Naphtali, 12,000 from Manasseh. The rhythm is precise. The counting is relentless. Tribe after tribe. Perfect symmetry. A massive, squared-off formation. To a first-century Jewish ear, this is not a random registry. It is a mobilization. It echoes the opening chapters of the Book of Numbers. Moses, standing in the blinding Sinai dust, calling up men 20 years old and upward, men able to hold a spear, men able to go to war. John is hearing the exact same thing. He is hearing the formation of an army. They are being counted. They are being organized. They are preparing for a cosmic collision with the beast of Rome. The 144, 000, are not passive refugees waiting for a rescue mission. They are an infantry. Rome has its legions. Rome has iron swords. Rome has heavy shields. Rome has the terrifying, synchronized sound of thousands of boots marching on stone. And then, the wind dies down. The chaotic visions pause. And he hears a number. 144,000. Rome crushes its enemies through overwhelming physical violence. God is raising his own ranks. He is drawing up his own battle lines. And it sounds like a very specific kind of army. First-century Judea is bleeding. Rebels hide in the limestone caves. Zealots carry iron daggers under their cloaks in the crowded markets. They want a war. They want a warrior king to ride down from the sky, rally the 12 ancient tribes, and slaughter the Roman governors. They are waiting for a violent, bloody purge. When John writes down this roll call, it sounds exactly like the revenge fantasy the Zealots have been dying for. A pure Israelite army, uncorrupted, ready to strike back. John stands on the volcanic rock. The wind is still dead. He listens to the voice of the angel reciting the census. He hears the final count hit exactly 144,000. The math is perfect. The roster is closed. The military draft is complete. But there is a detail hiding in the plain sight of the text that changes the entire book of Revelation. John heard the number, but he has not actually looked at them yet. But the detail that changes how you read the entire book of Revelation is a grammatical shift between 2 ancient Greek verbs. It is the most famous mathematical calculation in the entire book of Revelation. It is arguably the most debated demographic in human history. Revelation chapter 7. Verse 4. The angel has just shouted across the motionless Aegean Sea, and John records his reaction. And I heard the number of the sealed. Ibisishusa. Lean. The word John uses here is the Greek verb akouo. It means to hear, to attend to a sound, to receive an auditory report. John is listening to a military census. He hears the strict, disciplined roll call of the 12 tribes of Israel. He hears the rigid, impenetrable math of an exclusive holy war. But then, just 5 verses later, in Revelation 7-9, the sensory input completely shifts. John writes, "After this I looked, and behold." The Greek verb changes to eido. It means to see, to perceive with the physical eyes, to stare directly at the visual reality standing in front of you. This is John's signature literary technique, a brilliant structural pattern he uses throughout his apocalyptic writing. It is an audiovisual subversion. He hears one thing, but when he turns to look, he sees the shocking, unexpected fulfillment of that very thing. He hears a terrifying Lion of Judah announced in chapter 5. But when he turns around, he sees a bleeding, slaughtered lamb. And here, in chapter 7, the exact same reversal happens. What John hears is a perfectly numbered, highly exclusive, specifically Israelite infantry. And for 2,000 years, it has generated an immense amount of spiritual anxiety. You have probably heard the interpretations, but what John sees is a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne. If something about this textual reversal is stirring up questions you've never considered, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So John turns his head to look at the army. He expects to see heavy iron shields. He expects to see a purebred, highly exclusive militia, ready to inflict physical violence on the Roman beast. Instead, he is hit with the deafening roar of a chaotic, uncountable choir holding palm branches. They are not carrying weapons of war. They are carrying the ancient, leafy symbols of a harvest festival celebration. The 144,000 is not a separate, elite class of Christians. It is the exact same group as the uncountable multitude. What John hears is the apocalyptic symbol. What John sees is the staggering flesh and blood reality. The rigid, militaristic boundaries of the ancient tribes have not been enforced to keep the rest of humanity out. The boundaries have been blown wide open. The math of the 144,000 has been fulfilled and expanded so wildly that it absorbs every language. Most people assume this number is a strict, unyielding quota, a literal seating capacity for eternity. They imagine a VIP list with exactly 144 null slots, every skin tone, and every nation on the face of the earth. But before this massive, uncountable choir can stand safely in front of the throne, they have to survive the crushing pressure of the empire. And to do that, they are given something invisible to carry on their skin. The 4 angels hold back the storm. The Aegean Sea is like dark glass. John watches as a 5th angel rises from the eastern horizon, holding something that catches the morning light. He shouts to the others across the heavy silence, "Do not harm the earth, or the sea, or the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads." The word John writes down for this mark is the Greek noun sphragus. It appears 16 times in the New Testament, and in the 1st century Roman world. Its meaning is visceral. A sphragus is not a delicate, decorative stamp pressed onto a wedding invitation. A sphragus has weight. It is a heavy signet ring pushed deep into boiling hot wax to secure an imperial decree more violently. It is the brand seared into the flesh of an animal or a slave to prove they belong to a wealthy master. It is the unforgeable, legally binding mark of absolute ownership. Paul uses the exact same word in Ephesians 1:13. And when the seats are filled, the heavy iron doors of heaven are locked forever. A divine mathematics of exclusion that leaves the rest of humanity, when he reminds a battered, persecuted church that the moment they believed, they were sealed with the promised Holy Spirit. That cultural image changes everything about how you read Revelation 7. When this massive, uncountable army receives the Sphragus on their foreheads, they are not being handed a magic force field to repel physical pain. History tells us exactly what happened to the early church. The 144,000, the uncountable multitude still bled. They still went to the lions. They still felt the cold iron of Roman chains. They still died in the crushing darkness of the Colosseum with sand in their lungs. The seal is not a promise of physical safety. It is the guarantee of cosmic belonging. It is a declaration made in the spiritual realm that echoes into the physical one. Rome can touch their bodies, but Rome cannot touch their allegiance. Rome can break their bones, but Rome cannot erase the name permanently engraved on their skin. Rome can throw them into the arena, but the arena is just the doorway to the throne room. The Sphragus means the beast can roar, but the beast does not own the flock. The multitude is secure. The army is sealed,